Hello, Brian James, that Micro Four Thirds guy here again. It's been a week now since Lumix released the last lot of firmware updates for their cameras and lenses, and so I decided it would be a good idea to go out and try two of the updated items, namely the G9 camera and my G-Vario 100-300 f4 to 5.6 zoom lens. Now, if you've not subscribed already, then please hit the subscribe button below and the notification bell. Also, please hit the thumbs up to like it. And if you enjoy this video, then you can help keep the channel going by buying me a coffee with a PayPal link below. I was hoping for good things from the G9, especially with it having an upgraded autofocus including one area AI for humans and animals. Now, as you'll see from the accompanying photos, I'm no great animal photographer, but if the autofocus really is that good, then even I should have a fighting chance of a good shot, shouldn't I? Well, watch to the end to find out if I can, and hear my conclusions on the firmware's worth too. I returned to Torquay Tarn, a volcanic lake just a mile or two from where I live, as I know there's always a good collection of birds living there and within a friendly range of where you can get a camera. I took the G9, my 100-300 Lumix G-Vario, and also my Olympus plastic fantastic 40-150mm f4 to f5.6 zoom. The Lumix is the Mark I version with the Mega OIS, which should work along with the camera IBIS to prevent shake. The Olympus, depending on the camera's IBIS alone for its stability in its 80-300 full frame equivalent range. A customer of mine a few years ago made a request for some photos in a style I'd never shot previously and one I had little interest in. "Oh, of course you can shoot it," she protested when I declined. "You're meant to be a photographer. You should be able to photograph anything." Well, I know that I can shoot birds, but there's a big difference to my skills and that of somebody who's dedicated their life to perfecting the skills. However, I set up for the shoot, all handheld, and unfortunately just before dusk, so the light was fading fast. And therein lies my first problem. Yes, the IBIS may allow ridiculous slow shutter speed handheld, but no one had bothered to tell the birds that it won't freeze frame their own movement, and they should stay perfectly still while shooting. Therefore, I still needed shutter speed to freeze their motion. Lack of light and a maximum aperture of f4 on either lens meant high ISO, and I was forced to open it up to about 1600 ISO. To say I was underwhelmed was an understatement. The 100-300 is not the sharpest of lenses at the best of times, but that coupled with grain produced very soft images. Changing the normally very sharp Olympus didn't actually fare much better. However, I must say that when I did drop the shutter speeds, the OIS on both lens combinations with this body were very easy to use and very stable. My other purpose was to check out the speed and accuracy of the AI and the autofocus. Setting the camera to one area, a new set of options are now visible, enabling human and animal detection. My initial impression was that the autofocus was noticeably quicker than previously, and in general, the animal detection worked, with a few caveats. Birds were picked up reasonably well, as long as the bird was looking at me. Otherwise, the yellow box didn't appear. It didn't seem to change even if I got closer or zoomed in to fill the frame more. I'd say only around 50% of the time did it seem to appear. On dogs, on the other hand, it seemed like a switch which the dog used to say, "Look at me, here I am." Almost 100% accurate lock-on to various dogs all the time. Surprisingly, I found it worked slightly better on the Olympus, although I've got no idea why. As I said earlier, the inexpensive little Olympus 40-150 has no built-in stabilisation, but coupled with the G9 it didn't need it. It was steady as a rock, but again those pesky animals refused to stand still and pose. However, the light lifted slightly and I got the chance to drop the ISO again down to 400 and give a bit more latitude to take the aperture to a bit further away from the full open position, out to about 7.1. This was a major improvement for both sharpness and noise, with the photos becoming much more acceptable to me and much more worth keeping. I switched to focus tracking for a few shots, and if it's not been improved, then it certainly looked as though it had. It worked well, once you got it locked in the right place, which proved troublesome on some of the birds, but again, other animals such as dogs was like a focus box was attached with a piece of string. This was also the case on humans too. Although many of the shots appeared soft throughout the shoot, I was disappointed at first by the dirty marks on most of the shots. It looked as though my lenses or sensor were dirty. Little specks everywhere. It was only when I loaded them into my computer that I noticed that the marks were actually tiny midgy flies swarming around the birds, out of focus due to the shallow depth of field of a long lens fully open. Maybe not that bad after all then. With the iris opened slightly and the ISO dropped, more of the colours came alive and the contrast greatly improved. I must repeat this exercise with the OMD EM1 Mark II sometime, but my gut feeling is that the Olympus will do a better job still. Time will tell. And so, to conclusion. Did the camera make me an ace nature photographer? No, of course it didn't. But it did give me several steps up the ladder which I would not have previously had. Both lenses are excellent value for money on the second-hand market for those dabbling in this type of shooting, but it was also plain to see that the differences between entry-level glass and pro-level at these focal lengths is vast, both in quality and speed. However, it's also vast in cost too. Even with superb glass though, there is still a skill set to be learned and mastered. Is the version 2.4 camera firmware a noticeable improvement? Well, yeah, most definitely it is. But remember, the camera was already excellent and remains at the top of its game. So don't expect massive differences. They're more, how should I describe them, usable improvements rather than earth-shaking. In fairness, the 100 to 300, its firmware was to improve compatibility with the updates on the GH5S and the GH5 Mark II than the G9, so I wasn't expecting to see any real differences on that one. It's not my favourite lens if I'm honest, but it fills the need for a long zoom on the rare occasion I use it. I believe the Leica 100 to 400 is noticeably better, but again you pay your money and takes your chances. Final word? Install the firmware updates. You've got nothing to lose but an awful lot to gain. Now, as I said previously, if you haven't subscribed, just hit the subscribe button below and also the notification bell to get notices every time I upload a new video to YouTube. If you've enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up to like it, because that spreads the video throughout more of YouTube for more and more people to see it. And as I say, if you want to give a little bit of support to the channel, there's a PayPal link below. Drop me in for a cup of coffee, that would be fantastic. And thanks to all those people who have already. My name is Brian James. Keep on taking photographs, keep on enjoying them, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.